Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I am incredibly excited to be bringing you an earlier than expected review for the new Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 collection, Autobot Cosmos. Cosmos has been a very hot topic within this little subline that is a Walmart exclusive here in the US, because he's the only new mold toy in the deluxe lineup, rather than being a recolor or retool of a previous toy. And despite that fact, he has only been packed one copy per case. He shares that trait with Clampdown, who may not be as in high demand as Cosmos, but is going to be equally as rare, whereas all the other deluxes get packed 2 per case. So, when the big reveal came out and Hasbro Pulse and Walmart, put their pre-orders up, this guy and Clampdown sold out very, very quickly. I didn't even come close to getting a chance to put a pre-order down on them. Now, Clampdown did temporarily come back in stock for pre-orders at Walmart, and then, pretty quickly went away again. The Cosmos, he was like, there and gone. I think some people are saying 2.5 minutes. Not sure if that's true, but I do know that because I was kind of busy that day, by the time I, got on there and looked, he was long gone. So I wasn't planning on being able to review this guy anytime soon, but I got lucky tonight. I went to my local Walmart. They had pallets out there. They were stocking the toy aisle, and I just happened to spot the box and made sure I managed to nab myself a Cosmos and Clampdown, which means I could put my fears to rest about having to, contend with scalpers for this thing, but also I get to do a review for all of you. That all being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Cosmos' packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a good look at his instructions, and then we'll see Cosmos himself in both vehicle and robot modes. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll get my final thoughts. So we can see Cosmos comes in this very unique packaging that's going to be exclusive to this sub-collection here. It's a little hanging box type setup, not dissimilar from the old Generation 1 packaging, in fact. So we have a window here, which, unlike the G1 stuff, doesn't have any plastic in front, so it's just an open window. But you get the cool little peg tab right here, which has some great artwork of Cosmos' UFO mode, complete with his blaster and his little flag accessory there. We get a render of Cosmos' vehicle mode here on the top. We get the Legacy logo in a few places. We get our Velocitron Speedia 500 collection logo. And then, very awesomely, as a great callback to an oft, overlooked trilogy, we get the original Cyberplanet key symbol for Speed Planet, which came to be known as Velocitron. So it's all the way back from Transformers Seibertron, which is, good timing considering the Titan we just got was from Transformers Seibertron, old Titan-class Metroplex. Now in this corner, we can see some artwork of Cosmos' robot mode kind of cutting into the window. It comes around here on the side. We get our Velocitron symbol again, and we get what I believe is Velocitron written in Ancient Autobot. Then on this side, we get a close-up of Cosmos' robot mode art, which that's the first time that I've seen double the robot mode artwork on a Transformers release. You see that a lot like Marvel Legends. I don't think it's going to be a big change. I think that's just for the subline since the packaging is so different. Still kind of cool. More artwork, the better. Then on the back, we get renders of Cosmos in his vehicle and robot modes. He takes 21 steps to transform, which is really, really good for a small deluxe like this. And then aside from that, we just get his name again, the Velocitron Speedia logo, and your usual legal text. So not a very big box, but it's very nice looking, and I love the callbacks to the old G1 boxes, right down to the fact that he's actually packaged in robot mode, which is incredibly rare in modern Transformers. Some time ago, they made the decision to start packaging all the Transformers in robot mode. Did I say he was packaged in robot mode? If I did, I meant vehicle mode. It used to be alt modes were what you saw in the package, and then, the big surprise was transforming into the robot in disguise, right? Well, they got rid of that, I presume for marketing reasons. I imagine the having the robot visible was just a little more appealing to kids than, whatever their alt mode was. But me personally, I'm nostalgic for having the vehicle mode of the package. I think it just works out better. So I'm all for this change. I don't think they're going to change it in the greater generations or Legacy, but it's nice to at least get a subline that harkens back a bit to both the Unicron trilogy and then even Generation 1 with the style of packaging. Here's our instruction book for Cosmos, and you can see it's done up in a new shade. It's mostly grays and like this bluish silver color. So that's pretty nice. It looks good. I prefer these colors over the pale purples of Legacy. However, I do wonder, with the general darkness of these colors, if it's going to kind of shade things a little too much. We'll have to see. So we get his name here, Autobot Cosmos. We get our Velocitron logo, Transformers, Legacy, Autobot text again. Right here, we get a little how-to for storing his weapon and flag combo, and the instructions show you that you can store it on the back or stored on the side. I actually prefer something in the middle, and I'll show you what I mean here in a moment. All right, then we just go to the transformation from UFO to robot, which finishes around on the back here. And then this shows you how to have him, wield his accessories as a flag or as a weapon with a flag hanging off of it. So there's more options than what they show you here, and we'll definitely get into that. But it's more or less, all-encompassing. The transformation is the most important part. The accessories, I think most people, even a younger child, could figure out on their own. Now we get to see Cosmos' alt mode, and it is a really, really faithful recreation of the old toy. To me, the biggest difference, the biggest departure, is just how tall the top section is here. What would be, I guess, the cockpit of the UFO. It does stick out much further than the old toy, and that's just because this guy, in order to achieve a bot mode that doesn't look, super dinky and is actually posable, they have to really change the transformation around. But again, aside from that weird, kind of increase in height of the top area, this is really, really close to what you'd expect between the old toy and the old cartoon. It's got the signature little red dot on the top. Some people call Cosmos a doorbell because of that. And, it's just got the little blasters in the front. It's got the exhaust pipes on the back. Now, I was talking about the accessory placement. And what I think looks best on this guy is to have his gun on one of the sides, just because it's completely useless hanging off the back like that. And then have the flag just kind of trailing behind him, because you can see how, he could be cruising around and just having a flag trail behind him. Almost like one of those planes that, fly the banner. And the flag's interesting. Mark Mayer, the lead designer, touched on this. It's got two sides. It's got the checkered flag, because, this is racing themed, and I guess he's, your little flag bearer. And it's got a white flag, too, which is meant for Cosmos, surrendering, basically, if he's ever in combat. Because Cosmos, he's not profoundly a pacifist, but he's really kind of a non-combatant and doesn't like fighting. So I can definitely see him waving a white flag if he's ever encountered by, a group of Decepticons. So, yeah, overall pretty cool looking. Obviously, it's going to have some departure from the old one, but I think as, a recreation, it's pretty solid. It looks good. It's very clean. Even the underside, it's not super kibbly. The most obvious robot parts are the thighs here, and then everything else is pretty flat. So I think it looks phenomenal. Doesn't do anything. It's static. There's no wheels, right? Because it's supposed to be just a little hovering space vehicle. But, I mean, this is what people asked for, right? They wanted a G1 Cosmos, and this is finally what we get. And now here is a comparison shot with the recent Legends class Cosmos from Titan's Return, which itself is just a mild recolor of the Thrilling 30 Legends class Cosmos. I have both of them, but I decided to go with this one just because his colors are a lot closer, so he's a little better for comparison. The Thrilling 30 one's just mostly a brighter shade of green, and he comes with a weird Target Master kind of partner. But yeah, this is really what I want to look at. So you can see they both have the same type of alt mode. They both have a flying saucer. But while the Generation 1 design focuses on, a really old sci-fi interpretation of a flying saucer, kind of, I guess, dinky looking, it's really more basic geometric shapes. The new one took a much more stylized approach, right? Because at this point, dealing with Thrilling 30, they weren't generally doing straight updates. A lot of it was just kind of reinventions in the same vein as classics. So, it is still flying saucer. It's just a lot sleeker. It's got all these cool fins and stuff coming off of it, and it's got more pronounced gun barrels on the front. It does still have the little red head poking out of the top, though. And it's great. This is easily one of my favorite Legends class figures out there. The Legends Cosmos was a phenomenal toy. But for a lot of people that were wanting a more complete G1 fix, he did feel lacking because his alt mode, and especially, as we'll see here soon, his robot mode, are very heavily stylized and may not scratch that itch for everybody that wants, an updated G1 collection. So while I do think this is a phenomenal toy, I really do, I love this thing, I think our new guy here just comes much closer to giving a lot of the older collectors what they want. Alright, now it's time to transform Cosmos to his robot mode. So if you haven't already, go ahead and remove his accessories, just set them aside. First thing we're going to do is separate his arms out. So you're just going to kind of pull them out like this, get them untabbed from everything. And then we have to pull this back section away from the main body. And this can be kind of hard to do because this is really all connected to this yellow piece, which is on a slide. It pops off easily. And you have to try to get a hold of this and then pull it out so you can kind of get a hold of that yellow piece, slide out the rest of the way. Try not to pop this panel off if you can help it, but it's not the end of the world if you do. It's kind of loose. Alright, so you get that whole armature just kind of fully extended there. Then we're going to open these little yellow flaps. Gonna bring these down a little and swing this pelvic section forward, and this little tab is going to click into place in this green bit right here. So push it until you hear that click, like so. You can bring these little hip skirts down, separate the feet, kind of bend these in a little bit so you can bring the feet forward, and then take the little gun barrel sections and fold them all the way back. And they need to fold back till they click over these, and it's a bit tight, I gotta say. I don't like how much force you gotta put behind that, but you should get something looking like that. So just do the same thing here. Make sure the foot's pushed up all the way so that this will go. Make sure it's nice and flush. All right, just like this. Look pretty good, right? Then we're gonna rotate this whole yellow section. You're gonna flip this panel all the way in until it tabs into place, and then flip this section all the way in until it tabs into place, like so. Then you're gonna bring these shoulder sections all the way over, like clip on here and here. You're gonna flip his fists out. So there's that. And now this part, this one I don't really get why it is the way it is. All right, so his hands use fake exhaust pipes instead of the ones here. And that's just because of the fact that the original toy, it didn't have actual hands. It just had like the little exhaust pipes coming down off the arms, and it kind of looked like fingers. But then the animation model gave him hands, so this is kind of the way of rectifying that. So if you know me, I'm never super crazy about, fake kibble. In this case, I kind of get why they had to do it, but this one I don't get. So this red dot right here is typically formed by the top of Cosmos' head. But now, this is all a panel. This is a fake, just painted piece, and you flip the panel over to reveal the head. Which is, it's fine. At least that red dot and all that gets hidden away. But it seems like the most unnecessary use of fake parts to me ever. I don't know why they didn't just have his head collapse in and then, be able to pull it out or something. Maybe it's because they wanted to make his face just adequately wide to match the cartoon model, which would, require there to be a decent sized hole around the top of his head. That's the only reason I could think of, because it seems like it would be simpler to just have the head pop in and out rather than, engineer this whole flipping panel, but that's the route they went for whatever reason. Couldn't really tell you why. But I will say it makes for a very, very clean looking robot mode and alt mode, so I can't complain too much. And like I said, the kibble gets hidden away, so, even though it seems really unnecessary to me, it's definitely one of the better uses of fake parts, because you just hide the extra parts away, which is really nice. All right, so here is our robot mode, and it looks very, very cool. It looks incredibly faithful to his Generation 1 cartoon design. Not so much the toy, but the toy was also kind of wonky looking, so I definitely appreciate them, improving the proportions and everything, right? He's got these nice thick calf areas instead of being like little spindly sticks. The feet are kind of collapsed down, so they're not too big. Everything on this guy, I think, looks great. I really do. He's got some very useful ports here. He's got one on his back. He's got ports on his forearms there. So on the bottom of his feet for fossilizers, weaponizers, all that. And then, of course, 5mm ports in the hands. So you can get him interacting with his accessories in a few different ways. So we have our blaster, and we have our flag, right? So you can go ahead and put the flag on there, put the gun barrel in his hand, and he can wave this thing around like he's, waving on a race. Or you can go ahead and flip this, and he could be, cowardly surrendering to the Decepticons, which, again, he's not much of a fighter, so I guess I shouldn't say cowardly, maybe wisely surrendering, because I don't think he'd hold his own very well. He is just a short little guy with very minimum firepower. Of course, he's not helpless, and you can either leave the flag on if you don't mind it hanging off there, or you can just remove it and either keep it off, maybe plug it on his back if you just kind of want it out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. Really doesn't matter too much. I'll leave it on just to have somewhere to put it. But he can go ahead and wield his blaster properly and be able to shoot at bad guys. You can kind of reimagine the flag as like an ammo clip or something too. Maybe it is, right? Maybe the flag is just a disguise for the ammo clip. It's really up to you. Or, if you are a little more of a purist, the flag's completely optional. You can just go ahead and take that thing off and throw it in storage, and he'll still look, really solid and just be a little more, I guess, serious as a G1 character rather than kind of a jokey background character at a Velocitron race. Either way, though, I think this guy looks phenomenal. There is some weird color matching going on between the yellow plastic in his legs and the yellow paint, but yellow is a very, very difficult color. That's something that we've seen a lot, but also the designers have touched on too. They mentioned that it's notoriously difficult to match yellow paint to yellow plastic, so I'm kind of inclined to let that slide. I know how tough it can be. As far as his posability, he's got the ball-jointed head, got universal shoulders. Now, on my copy, the outward motion of the shoulders is pretty loose. Luckily, he doesn't have to support a lot of weight, but if you need him to hold his arm out like that, he really can't. Hopefully, that's not a universal issue, because this arm's fine. It's really just this one I'm having a problem with. But the back and forth is fine. He's got a bicep swivel, regular bending elbows. Unfortunately, he has no wrist swivel. That's something that Transformers, they almost always make you choose between either wrists that flip out or wrists that have a swivel. It's very rare, especially among smaller toys, that it has both. He does, believe it or not, have a waist swivel. This does turn all the way around, which is really, really nice. Though the skirt flaps can get caught up on the backpack kibble. Speaking of, he has these that lift up so they can kind of get out of the way if he does the splits. He's got universal hips. He's got a thigh swivel. He's got single bend knees that go pretty much exactly 90 degrees. And then he's got ankle tilt. So, very posable little guy. He's got all the hallmarks of a modern Transformers toy. And he looks good. He really, really looks the part of Generation 1 Cosmos with very, very few compromises made to the design. Now, what's interesting, I should point this out, the designer Mark shared that originally, when he was trying to come up with the Cosmos, he was pitching a retool of the Origins Bumblebee, like the flying saucer Bumblebee, based on the first episode of G1. And he actually shared the design sketches, and it was impressive what he was doing. And I guess he didn't think there was just going to be nearly enough budget to make, a new dedicated Cosmos toy. But the Takara designers were like, hold our beer, and they just went and designed this guy from the ground up and did it within budget for the subline. They did the same thing with Override, and I'll definitely talk more on that with her review. She was originally going to be a Hot Rod retool and ended up being her own thing. But man, I got to tell you, a lot of the time, we kind of get annoyed at the compromises made because of budget. So when something like this happens, and the design teams, either between Hasbro, Takara, whatever, can really just push that budget to the limit and do something brand new, perfectly new tooling, all that, it's really impressive. And it's very much appreciated as a collector, because who really would have wanted Cosmos as a Bumblebee retool? It wouldn't feel right. It would feel so far off the mark. And I'm not against, doing new forms of characters and reinvented characters, but the big focus with, War for Seibertron and Legacy has been, very faithful updates to the G1 characters. Not so much the out-of-universe characters. Those guys are, pretty hit or miss. But with the G1 stuff, they're keeping it very, very 1980s. So them convincing, the corporate bean counters to let them create this guy from scratch is so very appreciated, because he is so much better than he would otherwise be. And I really just got to extend thanks to these guys for going to bat on this one, because he's so awesome. Here again is a comparison with our Thrilling 30 or Titan's Return Cosmos. Now, I really wish I had the original toy to show you guys. Unfortunately, I never got the original, and they never did reissue it, which is so weird, because I thought for sure they would when they were doing that vintage reissue line at Walmart. They did a whole bunch of the Minibots, and I was sure Cosmos would be one of them, because they had the mold, not very long ago. They did that Transformers collection in Japan where they reissued and slightly, retooled the mold. And then they even re-released that version as the GoBot Pathfinder. So I'm really surprised we never got a Cosmos. I think what ended up happening is that, reissue line just kind of ended prematurely because sales were not great. Mostly because they're way too expensive. Like, I don't know where Hasbro or Walmart got off thinking that, people were happy to pay that much for those toys. And, we're seeing the same thing with the Beast Wars reissues now, where they almost always go on deep clearance because they're too expensive. I'm sorry, like, reissuing an old figure like that retailed for a fraction of what it's going for now, it doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to pay that much for the old toys. So yeah, I am very disappointed we never did get a reissue of G1 Cosmos here recently. But that does actually bring me to the point of them potentially redecoing this guy and making a Pathfinder. Because they've shown they're not afraid to do GoBots characters. We have Bugbite, we have Road Ranger from Huffer. So I think it would be just a crying shame for them to not re-release this guy in blue as Pathfinder, as like a Selects exclusive or something like that. Plus, we already know this toy is going to be a pain in the butt for a lot of people to get a hold of, so getting a second shot at the mold, while it may not be Cosmos, it'll at least give you a chance to experience this guy and his transformation and everything. I think it's a win-win for everybody. I hope they do it. There's no guarantee they will, there's no guarantee they won't. I mean, I'm still waiting on a Treads recolor from Warpath, but it doesn't mean it's not coming. Maybe we'll get like an Amazon 2-pack, it'll be Treads and old Pathfinder there. But anyway, back to our Legends class guy. So like I said, very stylized, very, very different looking. Very angular, got a lot of kind of curves and triangles going on. But he is really cool. And actually, I'd love to see this guy at a deluxe scale, like a little better post-building stuff, just as, a new look for Cosmos or something, because it's a very cool toy. Now, I'll tell you the one toy I'd love to get, and I'm sure it's not happening now because we're like way past that point. The really big, bulky form of Cosmos from the first run of IDW comics where he went and upgraded himself and had just like this hulking, like almost Voyager size or maybe large deluxe size form. It was such a cool design and gave like poor little Cosmos finally, a big buff body like he needs to help defend himself. And what was also really cool is that during the Combiner Wars saga, I think it was after the official Combiner Wars run, but kind of in the aftermath of that, they made a Skylinks Combiner with Cosmos as one of the arms. It had this cool like claw-like hand coming out of it. Man, if we could get a figure of that version of Cosmos that can actually turn into a Combiner arm, or better yet, even Combiner arm and leg, I'd be over the moon. But I think we're way past the opportunity for that now. I mean, we're lucky to even get this version of Cosmos. And it's times like this that makes me wish I had like some really fancy 3D printer, because I would totally make it. Like, I have all these concepts and ideas and stuff in my head for potential figures or improvements on existing ones that I really just need to be able to put into plastic just to like show the world what I mean, So maybe one day, if I ever get the money to get something like that, that's going to be on my list of projects to make. A combining big boy IDW Cosmos. Here's a really fun little shot I want to do real quick. We got Cosmos, waving a flag at the finish line for 2 Velocitronian racers. Now, these are not new toys. These are like actual Seibertron Speed Planet figures. We have Override GTS, which is a color scheme I absolutely hope we get for this new Override mold, because as cool as this color scheme is, this toy itself just has a really janky looking robot mode. So I'd love to see the new toy in these really awesome colors as like a Selects release or something. And then we have Seibertron Blur, who may or may not be Armada Blur. Might be a different Blur in the same universe, because they have a very similar body type, but different heads. And this guy's billed as a Velocitronian, and I don't think the original Blur was. I don't know, it's all very iffy. And unfortunately, the Blur that we're getting in this Velocitron Speedia 500 line, it's not this one, and it's not Armada Blur, it's IDW Blur. Which, don't get me wrong, I like getting an IDW Blur, but he seems so out of place in a Velocitron-themed subline. Like, we know for a fact that IDW Blur is not from Velocitron. Like, he is a Seibertron native, through and through. So, including him there was a really weird choice. I know when the Blur listing got leaked, everybody was convinced it was going to be Armada Blur, probably coming from the Point Blank mold, or at the very least, this Seibertron version of Armada Blur, probably also coming from the Point Blank mold. So to get what we got was like really shocking. It is not what we were expecting. And I don't mind having the IDW incarnation because it's a really cool design, But I feel like that should have been saved for something else, and they really should have given us a Unicron trilogy blur, because he just fits in so much better. Now for my final group shot, we're getting a lineup of all of the Minibots that have been released since the War for Seibertron trilogy, right? Since the start of what we consider modern toy engineering. Now, as you can see, these are all deluxe class figures, though they tend to be very small in stature, and they try to make up for that by giving them, extra accessories and stuff. I don't know how much those extra accessories actually help, push them into that deluxe price point. Especially when you get somebody like Warpath, whose accessory is a panel that becomes like a shield or something. But the trade-off to potentially not getting a full $20 to $25 worth of toy is that you get much better toys than if they were core class. So, you gotta kind of take your wins with your losses a little bit. Now, interestingly, we know that there's a wheelie coming. Like, we've seen core class wheelie. He's going to be the odd man out now, because so far all the Minibots have been done at the deluxe scale, and they're going to do wheelie as a core class. And in my opinion, a very poor looking core class. Like, he doesn't look great. Neither the vehicle mode nor the robot mode look particularly good. So he is, wheelie, he's a weird one, but he is technically a Minibot or mini vehicle. And he's really going to stick out like a sore thumb here, because he's going to be significantly smaller than any of these guys. So I don't even know if I'm going to include him in Minibot lineups, because, he's going to be the only one that's released originally as a Studio Series 86 mold. There is a Studio Series Cliff Jumper, but he just recolored this guy. So already, he's already going to be a little bit different in terms of design philosophy and everything. They want to make him super, super screen accurate, which I think is the reason for all of the design compromises I've seen on the toy so far. Personally, I still think that the Legends wheelie from Titans Return is a far better looking toy, even if it's not, incredibly screen accurate. So that's going to be weird. I'm not sure how he's going to stack up to these guys. But I will say that for what we have now, Cosmos fits right in. He looks absolutely amazing amongst all these guys. And honestly, looks better than some of them. I always thought that the Cliff Jumper mold family, while it more or less accomplishes what it set out to do, always felt less substantial than some later Minibots that were released, specifically in Kingdom and onward. So like your Warpath, your Pipes and Huffer, like they feel a little more deserving of a deluxe class. These guys, I don't know. I mean, they're supposed to be small, I get it. But I do feel that our newer Minibots just feel that much better as a deluxe toy, even if they're not as big as most deluxes. And that is a feeling that I absolutely get from Cosmos here. He feels very substantial. He's got a nice complex transformation, great posability, all that. And he just feels beefy, despite the fact that he's not very tall. He's not even the tallest bot here. But I think he's good enough to where I'm okay with, treating him as a deluxe. Not okay with how much deluxes cost these days. I mean, they're $25 a piece now, but comparing it to other deluxes, I think he fits in well enough, so I'm good with it. And this is going to complete our look at the new Legacy Cosmos. I have to say, I feel incredibly lucky to have received this guy so soon, and really, at all. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to actually find one of these guys in the wild. I wasn't sure if pre-orders were ever going to come back up. Pulse said that they were done, like that whatever they had, that was it. So then we'd have to rely on Walmart's pre-order system, which is shaky at best. So to already have this guy in hand, I'm super stoked. I'm really happy to be able to share it with you guys, to let you, kind of get some really good in-hand looks at it and decide for yourself if he's worth all the trouble trying to track one down. If you were lucky enough to pick one up, I'm real happy for you. If you're not, there yet, I really wish you the best of luck, because I think this is a phenomenal toy. And, I mean, it came out about as well as you could possibly hope for with a Cosmos update. I mean, really just looks the part. It's got a few extra little flourishes in there to help kind of fill them out, make them look a little cleaner. It's got lots of, the 5mm ports, so you can, go ahead and weaponize them up if you want to. But, I mean, the overall look and everything is great. Again, I do find the fake head thing a little odd. Seems unnecessary to me. And it would have been nice if they had found a way to kind of compress down or cover up the top section, because it looks a little disproportionate. But again, at a deluxe price point, on a very, very low budget, because I mean, they were really just really squeezing him and Override out of like every last penny that was available to him. I think he came out incredible. To all the scalpers out there, they're gonna scalp this thing for tons of money. Shame on you. I hope you get, I don't know, the pox or something. Like, seriously, go away. We don't like you here. But for everyone that's like truly just trying to get one for their collection and enjoy them, I wish you the best of luck. And I really hope this guy, is available enough for everyone to get, because I think anybody that picks this up is going to be very, very satisfied with it. Of course, that's just my take on this toy. So now I want to know what you all think of Cosmos. Is he everything that you were hoping for? Did he, come out as well as you could expect? Do you think he looks better or worse now that you get a really, good look at him? Or do you not want this? Do you think maybe it's just, I don't know, you're happy with the Thrilling 31, you're not crazy about the Minibots and how, they're charging deluxe prices for them? Maybe you just don't like Cosmos' design. He is a very quirky character, right? He's not like a super awesome, dangerous-looking Autobot. He's just this little guy that flies around and, observes things. Any and all feedback, as always, is welcome in my comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this very, very exciting look at the brand new Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 Autobot Cosmos. And with all that said, I will see you next time.